Programming in C# and ASP.NET. This is Burdett Wilson, your instructor and guide, as we take a closer look at ASP.NET and C#. This video is CS ASP 005, Variable Basics in C#. So what are variables? Variables are the things that we use to be able to store either text, and I've got that highlighted in yellow because that's what we're going to focus on mainly in this video, numbers or bools, and we'll explain each one of these as we go along. The other thing that's really important is methods, and methods is just kind of stick this in your head. It's going to be a little while till we get to it, is how we do stuff with this information, whether it's text or numbers or bool. So text, when we talk about text, we're generally talking about strings. That's where we're going to put that information. And if you think of text, it's the characters that mainly we use. It's the characters we use. So those characters are what we type onto a page. Text are not numbers, even though there are characters that represent numbers, okay? So this is kind of an unusual thing. So realize there are numbers, which we can do mathematical calculations with and things like that, but those are not text. And there are text that are numbers, that are characters, and we use those characters for certain things, okay? So just kind of try to keep those as separate in your mind as far as the way they work. Just remember, when it's characters, it's like characters on a page. They're typed on a piece of paper, you know, but we can still manipulate them and use those in different ways in what we're working with, okay? As where the numbers, as we'll explore in the next video, the numbers have a different quality. They are actually the mathematical equation, the mathematical piece of what numbers are. They are not the characters. And so with text, we're really dealing with characters. And so the reason why I want that to be very clear to you is because text and numbers, so the text 2, 3, 4, 5 are not something that we can in regular programming use to do mathematics until we switch that character 2, 3, 4, and 5 over into the numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. And those all relate differently to how we present them on the screen, how we manipulate them and use them. So if we start to kind of put that in our mind, then it's going to be much, much easier for us to be able to work with that in the future as we program. Okay, so if you could imagine for a second, you know, we talked about looking at a car in the last video. Imagine if we were to begin to talk about the variables for things that would make up a chair. It could be the color. It could be the number of legs. It could be wheels. It could be the material that it's made out of. If we're looking at each one of those, I want you just in your mind, or even just on a piece of paper there, jot down whether those would be texts or whether those would be numbers. Now, and we haven't talked about Booleans yet, but that would kind of be, Booleans are more of a yes or no type of situation. Would colors, you know, what would that be? What would the material be? So the color would be blue or green or yellow. And so those would be different. The number of legs, now that would be a number, okay? And we could use a character for it, but more than likely, we're going to use a number while we're doing that. We're going to use actually the number so that we can manipulate it later on. Wheels. Wheels would be a yes or no question. So we'd be able to say, hey, that's a bool. Yes, it has wheels. No, it doesn't have wheels. And then the material, okay, it's made out of cloth, it's made out of plastic, it's made out of something else. And whatever those are, that would be text. So we could go through and we could say color. Remember, text is what we call a string. So we could say color is a string. We could say number of legs. That's going to be a number. And we'll learn about those variables a little later. Wheels would be a bool. That's going to be a yes or no. And the material's probably going to be text. We're going to say, hey, it's wool, or it's plastic, or it's metal, because there would be all different kinds of things that could be for the type of chairs that we're dealing with. So you can think of office chairs that would have wheels, and it would have material, and it would have a back that was kind of different. Or maybe a wood chair. So now it's made out of wood and it has 4 legs, but it doesn't have wheels. And so that would make a difference in what we're talking about. Or maybe it's a variety of chairs. And so these variables would help us separate multiple chairs from one another. So this would be another way that we could use this in our program. So let's go to Visual Studios and let's go ahead and play with this a little bit. This idea of variables and things that we can do with variables. So go ahead and open up Visual Studios. And I want to come over here and I'm going to say create new project, just like we did in the last video. I am going to make this a WPF app. If you remember, to make a WPF app, I just click on this, or I can type in WPF over here. I am going to make this a WPF app.NET Core. Okay, so you might make sure that you're looking at that, and I'm going to click next. And then over here, I'm going to name this, let's just call this fun with variables. Fun with variables. Okay. And I'm going to, don't worry about any of the rest of this. I'm just going to click the create button now. And so that's going to, Visual Studios now is going to create a little basic template for us to be able to use, a little bit of file structure like we've seen in the last video when we created our Hello World video. Okay. Now it's opened that up and it's going ahead and it's loading the designer right now. So here comes the designer. Boom, there we go. All right, come over here, and if you remember the last time, we just closed this all WPF controls. So we just have this list. That makes it a little easier. I'm going to go ahead and close this down. We don't need to look at that right now. So I'm going to close that. And I want to click on this little button down here. I'm going to blow this up some so that we can, there we go. Make it a little easier for us to work on. And you can work with this based upon the size of your screen, what works best, okay? All right, so over here, remember, here is our file structure for our program. And you can look and see it says fun with variables. That is our program that we're working with. The main window here is open and empty at the moment. And then over here is our XAML. I'm going to close this, remember. No, I'm going to do this. Let's click on this, remove unnecessary usings. There we go. Leaves a little less clutter to our program. And so we're going to go back over here now. We're all right. Let's go back over here. Just go ahead and hit that save button just to make sure. Get into a habit of if you've been working on code and you've been working on it for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you're going to want to click that save button. Computers sometimes lose stuff. Sometimes the power goes off, things like that. And so you never know, and it's always good to save about, that way you're only 15, 20 minutes behind where you were at before, okay? So now what we're going to do now is I want to create, I'm going to have a little fun here. let's come up here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a label, and I'm going to just drag it over here, and I'm going to drop it on my page, just like that. And I want to grab one more. I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to drop that about here. We can kind of line those up on each other. And I want to go in here. I'm going to click on that label, and I'm going to call this label. I'm going to give it a name, label, and capital F, first, and name, and capital N in name. Label, first, name. And then I'm going to go down here to the content, to that box, and I'm going to highlight that. Remember, that's what's actually displayed on the page. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say first name. I'm going to type that in. I want to go up here to where it says this box up here where it says text, and look up here. You can notice it has put first name in there. I'm going to blow this text up a little bit. I want to make it a little bigger. Let's go ahead and make it a 22, and let's hit the bold button. Okay. And so then I'm going to come here to my second label, go ahead and click on it, and I'm going to name this label last name. And remember, I'm capitalizing last and name. The first part of this still says label, and that's lowercase, okay? And I'm doing all that on purpose. It's just good programming to label things this way. Okay, I'm going to come down here, and I want to make this 22 if you remember correctly, and I clicked on bold, and I'm going to come into where it says label, and as you can probably guess, I'm going to type in last name and enter, and there it changes that to last name. Okay, so we've got two labels now. One says first name and one says last name, and we have changed the actual names of those to first name and last name. You'll see why in a little bit. This comes in handy. All right, we're going to play with a new toy. We did labels last time. I'm going to come over here, and I want where it says text box. Text box. I'm going to drag that over here, and I'm going to put one. I'm going to even it up with my name right there, and let's grab one more, text box, not the text block. Be careful, because that's right there. Okay, and yours should look like mine. Okay, and I don't need to be real careful with these, because I'm going to change these around. Okay, I'm going to click on that. Notice it says text box. I'm going to just click behind that, and I'm going to say text box first and name. Okay, so I've changed the name of that to text box first name. I'm going to change the size of the text to 22 and bold. And then notice down here in text right here, it says text box, and that's what it says on the screen. And I'm going to make that go away. I'm just going to take it out, and now that text box becomes empty. Okay, now let's even that up just a little bit. Come here. There we go. I'm going to even it up so it's even with my name label. There we go. And now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do the exact same things in here, except it says text box 1 because it knew I had another one called text box, except I'm going to change it to text box last name. And I capitalize the word last, and I capitalize the word name. Okay, and then I'm going to come back down here, and I want to change that to 22 again, to the size, and bold, just like we did on the other one. And then I'm going to come down here, and where it says text box, in the text in here, I want to get rid of that. Okay, So now we have two boxes. I'm going to straighten this one out just a little bit. You might want to do the same thing. Okay, there we go. I'm just kind of lining mine up on this name. There we go. Okay, so now what we have on our screen, it says first name and last name, and we've put in two text boxes and we have named them. I'm going to go ahead and just hit the save button so that all saves, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to come over here and I want to grab another label, and I'm going to pull it down here, and I'm going to kind of even it up about here, and I'm going to drop it. Okay, let's even that up. All right, right about there. Doesn't matter where it is on there. Label. I'm going to change the name of this label to label my message. Okay, label my message. And remember, we're kind of working with a little bit bigger, and I'm going to change that to 22 and bold. Okay, and then down here under appearance, I'm going to change that to nothing. Now this is kind of a fun trick, and it's a good trick to be able to use, because now when I click here, my label disappears. Now we have named it, and so it's still there. It's still on my page, but it has disappeared on my page. And so now we can send information to it at a later time, and it'll look like it just appears on the page. Okay, but it's still there. It's still there. All right, I'm going to come down here now. We're almost done. I'm going to grab a button, and I'm going to pull that down here, and I'm going to make sure I'm below that label, okay? So I want to bring it down to almost closer to the bottom, but I want to leave some space because I have something else I want to put on there. Okay, I'm going to come into this button, and I'm going to change the name of this button to button my message. Okay, button says button my message. Okay, I want to change the size of it to 22, and I want to turn it to bold. And I'm going to come down here to where it says content button, and now I've highlighted that, and I'm going to change that to, of course, push me. Okay, and I just want to make that button a little bigger. Okay, I want to just slide that across there and make it a little bigger. Okay, so I've got that on there. Now I'm going to come back here and I want to grab one more button, and I'm going to put that one below it. I'm going to do all the same things that I kind of did to that button, except, okay, the name is going to be clear. It's button clear me. Okay, and then I want to change go back here. I want to change the text again. And so I'm going to switch that over to 22, and I'm going to make it bold. Okay, and I'm going to come down here, and where it says button under content again, I'm going to put in there, I want to put clear me. All right, and then I want to make that button as long as this button to match. Okay, all right. So now our page looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Make sure that I've saved it. Once you've done quite a bit of code, one of the things sometimes you want to do, not sometimes, you should get in the habit of doing this when you save. Coming up and clicking the build and build solution. And that will run, notice it says ready down here in blue, and then says build successful. And that's just telling me that everything that I've done in my code so far, that when I will run it, it's going to work. Now, it may not do exactly what I wanted to, but the code is good up to now, okay? It doesn't mean that there's not errors. There's just not any errors, what we would call syntax errors, coding errors, as of right now. All right, we've done all that. So now I want to come down here and follow along with me. Here is the push me button. We're going to double click this real quick. And when we double click this, it is going to take us over to our main windows.cs into our code that is behind this, okay? So now we're ready to actually work in our code. All right, I'm going to just put a few spaces in here. So we've got a little room in here. And what do we want to do? Well, we know that we have a couple of windows over there, a couple of places to put information in. And we have one that is a first name and one that is last name. Well, the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a couple of buckets, a couple of places in the memory where I can store text. And when I do that, I want to call them by the variable name to let the computer know what they're going to have in it. So I'm going to type in string. Now, if you're remembering what we just talked about, string is the variable type for text. And so that's what I'm going to put in there. So I want to put string, and so now I want to name this, okay? So that when the computer is looking for it, I can call this name, and the computer will know I want that piece of information. So here we put string, and I'm going to put first and name. First name, okay? And now I'm going to put a semicolon. Every time I tell the computer something, I do something, I need to be able to have some punctuation to end it, to let it know that I'm finished typing in that statement. And so a semicolon is what we use in C# to do that. Okay, now I want another bucket. I'm going to call this string and last name. And notice I lowercase the first word and uppercase the second word. You want to make sure you do this as you're coding. Okay, and then I'm going to put in a semicolon there. Okay, so now we've got our string, which is first name, and so that's, just imagine a little bucket, and so we can put something inside of there. We can put this text in the memory of the computer. We also have the one that we just created called last name, and now we can put some information into that spot. Okay, we're going to get a little tricky here. Here we go to build the spot where we're going to actually put this information. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put in here. If you remember correctly, we made a couple of boxes over on the other side called text boxes, where the user is going to put in their information and we're going to pull it over here. So let's access the first one. It was called text box, and there it is, text box first name. See it right there? All I have to do is double click this and the computer will put it in for me. This is a great feature. It speeds up what we can put, information we can put in, and it remembers what we called things in our program. So notice by naming it text box first name, how easy that was to be able to get. Okay, now I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to push period, because I want to tell it things that I want to do with the information that's over there. And notice there's all kinds of things over here that it will allow us to do. But right now, what we're wanting is we're wanting where we put that information. In this case, it is called text. Okay, there it is right down there. There's text. And so if I double click on text, it has put that in for me. And now in the way computers think is I'm going to tell it what I want to put in there. And this is how we do that. We're going to say equals. So now I've said, hey, I want you to take that information. No, I'm incorrect. Okay. I want to come back over to this side of that, and I'm going to space. All right. And then I'm going to come over here, and I want to type, remember we made our bucket up there, first name, to be able to put the information in. So I'm going to type in first, and notice it comes up, first name, and I'm going to put in an equal sign. Let me just go get this and pull this back over here. There we go. Just like that. Now, remember I said there's some punctuation that we want to put after we've told the computer to do something. So I'm going to put in that semicolon, and that semicolon is what tells it that's the end of that statement. Okay, now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to type in last, and last name, there it is, last name equals, and then remember text box, and there it is, text box, last name, and then a period. And notice it remembers the last time I did this, I put text up here. And so I'll just go ahead and click on that. All right. And put in my semicolon. Okay. Now I've put what's in that box into first name, and what's in the box for last name into last name. So now I know that information inside the computer. So I'm ready to go back and to use that information now. All right, and so how do we do that? Well, I'm going to come down here, and if you remember right, we created a label, and that label was called My Message. Now notice we can see label first name, label last name, label My Message. So doesn't that make it easy when we have named things properly? And notice we didn't just give it one word, we gave it a complex name. And so the better you name things, the easier you're going to find this. Now we've got to tell it what we want this to do. So I'm going to push the period again. And content, remember, is the way we put information into labels, okay? So I'm going to say content. And next, remember, the way we put things in there is we say equals. Now, we're going to do a little bit of work here. So just follow along with me. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a set of quotes. So open quotes here. And inside there, I'm going to write hello. Oops, not a zero. There we go. There we go. Hello, and then a space. And then on the outside of that, I'm going to go plus. And then right there, I want to put in first. There it is. It popped right up. First name. And then plus. And open quotes and space inside there. And then go outside of them. And plus. And then last. See it down there, last name? There it is. Last name. And plus. Open quotes. And comma. And good to see you. And an exclamation. Oh. How about we spell you correctly? There we go. And an exclamation mark. Okay. If this is throwing you a little bit, remember, I am on video. You can stop me. You can fast forward me. You can also go back and look at this code. Everything in your program, oh, put a colon on the end of there. Everything in your program must be exactly the way it is in mine. Okay? So make sure that you put this hello plus first name plus open quotes space plus last name plus good to see you. Okay? So we've put that all the way across there. You're probably saying, what is all of this code? Interesting. What does it do? I'm going to take out a little bit of space there just to make my code look a little cleaner. And I'm going to come up here, and remember, we want to save after we've done quite a bit of work. So I'm going to hit the Save All right here. I'm going to go ahead and go to my build, and I'm going to say, I'm going to come down here and actually click Rebuild Solution, and it runs, and it says, hey, rebuild all succeeded. There's no red squiggly lines. If you have a red squiggly line, come back and look at my code and make sure exactly what I wrote is exactly what you wrote, okay? Don't make it any different. Code has to be exact. Okay, so we're right there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the Run button. And I want to show you what this will do. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. We're okay. My antivirus is worried about what I'm working on here. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Okay, here it says first name. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in Bob. And then last name, I'm going to put Tabor. And so now I've entered a name, Bob Tabor. It doesn't matter what name I have entered into this box. And I click the Push Me button. Hello, Bob Tabor. Good to see you. Okay, now notice we haven't done anything with this Clear Me button now. So even if I push it, nothing happens because there's no code on the inside of there for that right now. Okay, so this all worked. If yours did not work, and there's a chance of that, go back and look the code over and make sure it's correct. Well, how do I get back to that code, Mr. Wilson? Well, if you come up here, you might be looking at this. You can just click on the main Windows, XAML.cs, look at the code, and make sure that your code looks exactly like my code, okay? Exactly like my code. It can't be any different, okay? It's got to be the same. Maybe that'll help. It's a little smaller, but you can see everything that I wrote. Okay, so now what I want to do is, if you got all that correct and everything worked, I want you to click on this main window again, come back here, and what we're going to do is we're going to double click the Clear Me button. So let's go double click that. And when we do that, it's going to build this code here, private void button clear me, click. Remember up here, it's button my message, click. So we're going to come inside here, and now we're going to build a little bit of code to do this. Okay, so we've double clicked that button, and we come into here, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do in here. We want to switch everything back to the way it was so that somebody can push that Clear Me button and it will clear the form that we're working on. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we do is we write text, and there it is, text box first name. That's the one we want first. And we're going to say period. And remember, the way we get to that is we say text and equals and open quotes. I'm not going to put anything in there, and semicolon. And then we come down here text box last name dot text and equals okay, so you've got text box first name dot text, you've got text box last name dot text, and now we're going to come in here and we're going to say, remember my, oh, there it is, label my message, right? And I want dot and content this time instead of text, because this is a label, content equals, and we want to, if you remember right, when we left no information in there, it looked like it just disappeared. And so we're going to say open quotes. We're not going to put anything in there, and semicolon. And that'll make it look like basically there's nothing in there anymore. So it will become empty. All right, so go back up to the top and hit the Save All button. We want to save everything that we've done. And we're going to build this, build solution. And it says build succeeded. And if there was an error, it would have come down here. It would say error list down here. You know, for example, let's say we left one of these text out of here. Okay. Then notice there's a little squiggly, which makes an error. And if I'd come up here and put build solution, notice now it says error. Cannot implicitly convert string to systems window control dot text box. Okay. And what that basically means is it's telling me I did not tell it what I wanted to do. So we type in text again here, and that corrects our problem. And when we build it, it says, hey, it looks okay. Okay, build succeeded. No errors down here. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here. I want to come up to where it says fun with variables, and that's where I'm going to run this from. And so I click it, and it runs. I'm going to open that up just a little bit so you can see it a little better. And I put a name in, and let's say again, I put in my buddy Bob, and I put in Tabor, and I click the push me button, and it says, hello, Bob Tabor, good to see you. And now, because of the new code that we've added, that we just built in there, if I click the clear me button, it clears all that information out, and it clears the name out. And now I can come back in here, and I can put in Burdette Wilson, my name, and click push me, and it gives me that message back again. Okay, and once again, I can clear that just by clicking this button that we've built in here. And so now our code works. Everything is working over there. You know, let's go ahead and go back to, you might want to save that in case we want to use it again, or just come back and be able to look at it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out of Visual Studios. Let's go back to our slides here. And, you know, we have looked at text is what we have done. And in that, we've looked at how we use strings to store text in it, and then also how we can put those strings together. And when we put strings together, even with other text, we call that, and this is kind of a fancy name, but it's called concatenation. And so concatenation is what happens when we add pieces of strings together to create a message or something we want it to do, concatenation. And we'll see more of that in some of the other programs that we work on. So that ends this for this video. Our next video is CS ASP 006 Basic Numbers in C#. I look forward to seeing you there. Make sure to subscribe. More to come.